Okay, this is a very interesting one.
I want some nasty. Are we having fun yet?
I have absolutely no idea how to feel about Blake Wesley, and I think by the end of this video, you'll kind of know why. So yeah, this is a very interesting prospect to say the least. I know a lot of people wanted me to talk about him, so I looked a lot into him, looked a little bit into his background, just what people had to say about him, and what's the overall consensus on this kid. And I have to say, it's a mixed bag. So first and foremost, let's look at the stats, okay? And then I'll talk about what type of player he is and what I'm seeing from him. So here's the stats throughout the season: 14.4 points, 3.7 rebounds, 2.4 assists on 40% field goal percentage. Now, as you can see here, I know you're not going to see this at first glance, but I'm just going to throw this out there, okay? Very streaky. Very streaky. For every 4 for 17 game that he has, he can have a 10 for 21. For every 7 for 12 game that he has, he can have a 2 for 13. He is very streaky. Now, I will say this, he's exceptionally talented. And he's very confident, and you can see that in his game, and that's also kind of a flaw, but we'll get into that in a minute. But overall, what type of player is he? What am I seeing from him? Well, if you even look through the stats, he's pretty good at steals. He will get you in those passing lanes. Now, as far as on-ball defense, he's pretty good. I mean, fundamentally sound as far as putting his hands up, not fouling too often, but overall, he's not a great defender, especially getting around screens. It seems like something he still has to work on. But once again, these young players, they're going to have things to work on, and he's not projected as a lottery pick by any means. So let me just say this, okay? We're going to talk about him a little bit more, but before we get into that, I want to say this. I really like his character. The more and more I see of him, he seemed like a really low-key kid. He seems really cool, really laid back. He seems like he works really hard as well. So as we can see here, I'm going to show you what his principal actually had to say about him. And I thought this was pretty cool.
So this young man is respectful. He carries himself well. He speaks to you. He greets you. He looks you eye to eye. The thing that I see with him on the court is that he's a leader, and he wants excellence. And what I mean by that is that he wants each one of his teammates to meet that same standard of expectation that he has for himself. So when I think about Blake Wesley's transition, one is there's two different Blakes. They're great, right? So he's very quiet. He's okay with being to himself. He's not an extrovert, he's an introvert. But when he's on that basketball court, it's a whole nother beast.
Ooh, cringe. They shouldn't did that. That was awful. But yeah, so as you can see here, you know, just a little bit of what his principal had to say about him is that he's a very respectful kid. And I've seen that not only here, but I've seen it with interviews with him as well, and what he had to say about his upbringing and everything. And he seems like he has a really good foundation. He seems like he's going to work hard, and he can get better as it goes on. Now, here's the upside. So I just feel like I said a lot of negatives, but there is upside to him. And one of those upsides is the fact that he can create his own shot. Now, sure enough, he's going to need a little bit more control in it, but I will say this. He is on and off, okay? When I said that he was streaky, he's really streaky. Either you see the Blake Wesley, and similar to what his principal had to say, that there's two different Blakes. I think there's two different Blakes on the court as well, because you can either get a Blake Wesley that's very methodical underneath the rim, very methodical at mid-range, and takes his time and makes the right move. And then you can kind of get a Blake Wesley that's a little out of control, to the point where he will get blocked at will. He will turn the ball over at inopportune times. And one thing as well is his defense. So like I said, on-ball defense is okay. I mean, I wasn't crazy about it. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. If you think differently, please correct me. But I wasn't crazy about it. But he is good in the lanes. But even there is something that's kind of an issue. Because in the lanes, don't get me wrong, he will take some gambles, okay? And it will pay off. Sometimes it pays off, but then there's other times where it really doesn't pay off, and he takes maybe too many gambles. Now, with all that being said, now I know that all this came across as kind of negative. I'm gonna say this: where he's projected, oh, he would absolutely be a steal because he has so much freaking upside. So Tankathon has him going at 28. I've seen some other things say that he could even go lower than that. And I feel like if the Spurs, I don't know if this is possible, but if the Spurs could somehow get him at 38, that would be a steal, like easy steal. I would even argue that 25 wouldn't even be bad. But overall, how would he fit with a Spurs team is really, really good, actually. He's very similar to DJ in that DeJounte Murray has gotten better at this, but DeJounte Murray also takes some big gambles, and it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. Now, this previous season, I feel like it paid off way more than it didn't because he's just been smarter with it. And Blake Wesley is just a guy that he just reeks of not having experience. That's all it is. I think that once he starts to learn a little bit more, once he gets to the NBA, he will be able to really control himself. Right now, it's just, man, I just don't know how to feel about him. And initially when I was looking into him, I kind of saw no flaws. And that's one thing I need to point out as well. He is a decent playmaker. He has high IQ, like offensive and defensive. He has really high IQ. And yeah, it's a lot to his game that there is to love. And initially, I didn't see a flaw. I thought everything was good with him. And I was kind of confused why he wasn't a lottery. And then when you look more and more to him, it's the inconsistencies. It's the streakiness. And I don't know if I mentioned this as well, is the 3-point shooting very close to 29%. I mean, he just got there. If it weren't for a couple of these games where he shot decently well, he could have easily been in that 29% range. And as you can see here, once the ACC tournament started, I mean, 25 or actually 0% from three. Actually, once the tournament started, he was 0% all the way throughout. So look, he's very streaky, but overall, I think that if you're working with any NBA, I know I always talk about the Spurs, but any NBA team, you can kind of fix some of his flaws as far as his shooting and everything, and he'll be perfectly fine. But he just has a lot to learn, but his upside is crazy high, okay? He could either end up being in the NBA just a role player that, I could see him on some pretty decent teams and do fairly well. He could just be a role player, or he could legitimately turn into a star talent. And I don't know if there's much in between here, but that's just what I see from him. But you guys can tell me, what you think about it. So you just look at pros and cons. And I always do this. I don't look at this at all. I just bring it up, and then I start to look at what they have to say and see if I seen any of it or anything that I missed. So this is what NBA Scouting Live had to say about him. Pros: decent scorer off the dribble, excels at scoring on off-ball motion plays. They say that about everybody. Adequate playmaker. Yeah, we mentioned that. Decent defender. Yes. Good athlete. This is, from all of the prospects that I've looked at, this is a very short list. And man, I'm just used to longer lists. Cons: needs to improve his shooting. Yes. Can play too wildly on offense. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Oftentimes, like I said, you're either getting a Blake Wesley that is very methodical, really good around the rim. I mean, Kobe-esque with some of the moves that he makes, especially back to the basket, I will say. He's pretty good with those mismatch matches. But yeah, or you get somebody that's just like out of control and getting blocked on every play. Moving on. Needs to improve his rebounding. Actually, I did not pay attention to that at all. I'll be honest with you guys. Especially with him sitting at like 6'5", I wasn't paying attention to his rebounding. But he is very lanky, and he looks bigger on the court. So, okay, sure. He needs to work on his rebounding. I'll just take their word for it, and you guys can let me know what you think about that. Can be undisciplined defensively. That's what I was kind of saying. I don't know if they're talking about the gambling, but that's what I'm talking about. He gambles a lot, and highlight plays will make it look as if he's the greatest defender of all time. But in actuality, it's a lot of gambling. Must get stronger. And yes, that's another thing as well that I noticed is that he kind of goes away from contact on the offensive end when he's getting to the basket. He stays away from that contact to the best of his ability, and I think that's partly why he get blocked so often. I think if he build a little bit of strength, he'll be perfectly fine, and I think he'll be able to finish more of those that he's trying to finish. But yes, go ahead and read the summary. Blake Wesley is an athletic, energetic combo guard that is having a good freshman season at Notre Dame this season. He is an aggressive scorer that will make high motor plays at the rim. He is high motor, so he would fit with basically any team. I think he would fit with the Celtics pretty well. And he also can throw down highlight reel worthy dunks. He also a capable position defender that will apply solid ball pressure and stay in front of his man. Okay. He'll need to improve his jump shot and be more consistent in games, but his athleticism, motor, and upside could enable him to be a first-round pick. This is what I was saying, his upside. I mean, I'm telling you guys, I've never been so on the fence on a player. If he came to the San Antonio Spurs, I would not be angry at all. I would say, okay, cool. But then at the same time, I will just kind of scratch my head and be like, I don't know what he's going to be. He is so good, yet so out of control sometimes. And that might just be due to his age, but we'll just have to wait and see. So you guys let me know what you think about this. Once again, if you want to support the channel, Patreon, link in the description, or you can just go over to YouTube and click that little join button and help your boy out. But I'll give it to you guys later. Till next time. Deuces.